Happy post-eclipse. Yeah. I feel really good. Hope you do too. I just got done channeling Tasha, a human from the future, year 2040. She's a school teacher and school admin. She teaches political sciences and fine arts. And she's an admin for a middle school in the Midwest in Illinois. And she gave us a lot of information, and I know that you're going to love it, but I'm just going to give you a little taste of some of the things she said because it's still fresh on my head. So some of the questions that you asked over on my Patreon channel, which is where you can find this full one at tier 1, you can find the full channeling there. She asked, where is the best place to live in the U.S.? And, well, you asked that. And she answered that she preferred the Midwest, and she began to tell us why. She told us a lot about the environmental changes, the climate changes that happened that made her choose the Midwest. She said specifically, don't go towards New York City, rather, not state, but New York, where else did she say? Oregon, Washington State, and California were the worst places to live in year 2040. And she said some of the best places were the Dakotas and the Midwest overall. So I wasn't really surprised about that. And yeah, she said many people were primarily moving to Canada. A lot of people were migrating over to there as the best place to live as well. Let's see, I'm going through some of your questions that you had for her. Here's another question. It said, what do you wish elementary teachers of 2024 had better understood to have better prepared the young adults of your time? And she said she wishes that more people were bilingual, particularly in Spanish. She says she wishes that more of us had trained our children in trades because they are the primary mindset in careers in this time. And insofar as character traits, she said she hopes that we foster both compassion and resilience and fortitude in our children simultaneously. So that was pretty interesting. And she gave the full answer in the channeling on my on Patreon. Insofar as cryptocurrency, she wanted, you guys wanted a kind of a general thing with where it was headed in 2029 to 2030 was your question. And she said that there were a lot of cryptos that were underdogs like Cardano and Solana that were at the top of the industry in 2040. She said there was a major crypto crash for overall that affected everyone for a few years, beginning in late 2028, lasting all the way until 2031, and then it began to recover between 2031 and 2033. So let's see what else she asked. She asked, you were asking me to ask her about precious metals like gold and silver and do they have value in 2040? And she said that they were 2.5 to 3 times currently in year 2040 more valuable than they are for their current value today. So do that math in your head. Let's see what else you asked me to ask her. You guys wanted me to ask her about sound healing techniques and would it be integrated in Western medicine or will it be considered an alternative medicine? And she said it is integrated, that for the majority of the part it's considered woo-woo by people who don't want to accept it still. That made me sad that sound healing is still considered woo in 2040. I love things that are considered woo. But she also said that the healthcare industry had changed so much that the commercialism in most healthcare systems in the US and Canada were no longer thriving, that many of the hospital systems had crashed because they just couldn't afford, it wasn't financially feasible to continue. And she said that many people are more into preventive care and that sound healing, both light and sound healings, light and sound technologies is what she called it, were high on the list of alternative therapies that kept people out of the hospitals. She said that in year 2040, not many people just went, unless you had a broken bone or had a heart attack, that people just didn't go to the hospital at all, really. Let's see what else I can answer for you. She asked us, you were asking her to ask about children and if they were still glued to the screens. And she said that no, that we had been through so many environmental disasters that we did have another almost lockdown. She said during the almost lockdown that we had some civil unrest because people refused to wear masks. They refused to be told to stay indoors, that we handled it very differently this time, and that shifted things for us, and that we did not end up having a lockdown ever again because of the way that we handled the next proposed lockdown, because it was only in the stages of the government saying this is what we propose and suggest, and people refused to handle it in that way. And there was a large amount of civil unrest. There was a large amount of parents sending their kids outdoors instead of behind the screens. She said that kids haven't been glued to screens since 2030. And that from that point on, people were so happy about being able to go outdoors and have a healthy, happy environment after all the natural disasters that we faced, that basically that they just don't spend a lot of time on phones and with screens anymore. So I was happy to hear about that as a mom. And she also, you guys asked me to ask her about open extraterrestrial contact. And I'll save that one for you because she gave a very detailed answer. And that one is over on the channeling on Patreon. You guys asked me to ask her how much does an average person work in general, particularly in Sweden. You asked about what unique skill sets or characteristics or interests stand out among the youth of her time. And her answer was that youth were very compassionate, very inclusive, but also very independent and interdependent, that they had more leadership qualities and less introversion, less anxiety, that this in 2040, there's no more self-harm. It's very rare to see a child self-harming or having eating disorders or having depression or panic attacks. That's a thing of our generation, not her generation, and that we had done a lot to help our children. So I was unhappy about some of her answers, very happy about some of her answers as well, particularly that last one. I am also going to do a channeling of Jessie from the RRO year 2100 coming up soon this month. Keep an eye on that on my YouTube channel. And if you want, you can look at the channeling of Tasha from year 2040 on my Patreon channel at patreon.com/Pamela Aaralyn. Have a good post eclipse. I hope you're feeling good. Bye-bye.